So Nintendo gave us 10 of the 20 upcoming NES games to premiere with Nintendo's online service. Those 10 are pretty solid choices. We have Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong, Dr. Mario, Ice Climber, Legend of Zelda, Mario Bros. Soccer, Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, and everybody's favorite, tennis. But what about the other 10? Nintendo has some hidden gems, and the NES also has some hidden gems, and really, honestly, true classics. So I'm going to be diving in and giving my personal picks. But first, a few really quick rules. The games have to be developed by or for Nintendo. Basically, I'm going to be sticking as first party as possible, since the 10 games that they gave us were only first party. There's going to be no particular order for this list, with the exception of the top 3. Those are in order. And if Nintendo gets to bend the rules with adding online functionality, then I'm going to bend a few rules as well, but I think they're within the realm of possibility. So without further ado, I am Chris from Cohesive Friendship Unit, and let's dance, Nintendo. Let's dance. Starting off with number 10, Excitebike. So, here's one of my two big exemptions, Nintendo, Mr. Big Online Fancy Pants. You have a map editor in an NES game. Actually, this game was considered one of the NES's programmable series of games, of which I'm pretty sure Excitebike was the only one. But the fact that there's a map editor, the ability to make and design your own maps and then play them would be awesome. But there's one problem. Excitebike's single player. So let's add that multiplayer functionality in Nintendo. Let's add the ability to make your own maps, and then let's add the ability to play those maps with your friends. Excitebike, number 10. At number 9, we're going to come in with Rad Racer. So, little story here. There is a barcade type of deal going on near my hometown, and I go there fairly regularly. And there's a game very similar to Rad Racer. Not exactly Rad Racer, but very similar. And it's always full. There's always a line to play this game. And Brian in Cohesive Friendship Unit also enjoys a nice round of Rad Racer. So I think this would be a nice way to kind of diversify it. I know Excitebike is also kind of a racing game, but this is a really interesting perspective on racing. So I think it would be a really solid choice and a really different choice from Nintendo's typical entries from what you might think. And at number 8, we're going to go in with Punch-Out! So about that bar that I was talking about earlier, Nintendo had what was called Nintendo Play Choice, which basically gave you a choice of NES games to play, and they were essentially the exact same as the actual NES card, and it was kind of a way of advertising the NES in a way. So the bar that I go to has one of these cabinets, and the people playing that cabinet are always playing Mario or Punch-Out! It's always Mario or Punch-Out!. And when the only other game that's being played on this cabinet is Mario, that's how you know that you got a good game. Game's very fun, game's very challenging, and I think Little Mac has been getting some love since Smash 4. So we're going Punch-Out! For number 8. And at number 7, we have Kirbys Adventure. So I know two things about the NES. 1, the games are hard. And 2, the games don't look particularly good. Kirbys Adventure is an exception to both of these rules, which is why I think it would be a perfect fit. The game plays very well. The game is actually aged fairly well because Kirby is basically Kirby, and that much really hasn't changed. I was actually just playing it, and it's still super fun. And it is one of the best looking NES games to boot. So I think that would be a super good choice to showcase what the NES was really capable of and have a game where people aren't going to just get frustrated, but actually going to be able to complete. And at number 6, I'm going to read you a little excerpt. You explore various settlements and other areas of interest while locating a source of some local calamity or disturbance. When you enter a more dangerous locale, the game switches mechanics introducing various obstacles, adversaries, and dungeons. This was an excerpt from Star Tropics, not Zelda. And if you want a great way to wash the bad taste of Zelda 2 out of your mouth, you should try this game. It's a good-looking game. It's heavily based on exploration and is quite similar to Zelda in a lot of ways. And that brings us down to number 5, Kid Icarus. One thing I particularly like about Kid Icarus is its emphasis on vertical platforming, which you don't get to see that often. Point of Kid Icarus is to move up, and if you want a super fun but super challenging way to move up, Kid Icarus is your game. I think it's very underrated. I don't see a lot of people really talking about Kid Icarus, and I think a lot of people are upset that Kid Icarus does not get more love, and that his 3DS outing is really the only game since, well, this one. That's going to round us down to number 4, and that's Super Mario 2. And the reason that this game's in there is, well, number 1 and number 3 are in there. So why not put the Black Sheep in there too? I think this game has actually aged better than the first, or the first and the third. I think this has some unique mechanics. I like the playable character aspect. I like what I know that it technically was not developed as a Mario game. Nonetheless, I like the varied setting that you would never see without this game having been made as a non-Mario game. And I think, yeah, again, it holds up super well. And this brings us into the top 3, which is where, again, these are kind of actually ranked. So number 3, and again, this is where I'm going to play my bending the rules. We should get a localized NES Fire Emblem game. And I know the games may not have aged the best of the bunch from this list so far. However, I think it would be really cool to see where this series started. On top of that, ideally, Fire Emblem Switch is still slated to come out in 2018. This would be a great way to get people to see Fire Emblem's roots and get games that we have never actually gotten before. It would be a cool way, kind of in a sense of Star Fox 2 for the Super Nintendo Classic, to get a new game that is decades old. And that brings us down to number 2. Again, bending the rules, but I think this one is super possible. I'm going with the Nintendo version of Tetris, which is vastly inferior to the Tengen version of Tetris. However, I think they could add a little something that could largely rectify at least some of the issues. And that would be multiplayer. I think online multiplayer with your friends could be kind of fun. I personally like Tetris, and I remember in high school, I actually got really into playing Tetris in a pseudo, not competitive state, but I would play on one computer, and I'd have someone sitting right next to me playing, and we would start at the same time, and we'd see who got the best score, and it was actually really fun. And I did that for a year. So I think this could definitely be something that could be fun and could kind of take off. I mean, Tetris has been on everything, and it has stood the test of time, and everyone loves it. So I think this is a clear choice. And at number 1, we're going with Metroid. I think this game has aged like a fine fucking wine. With one exception, save states. If they can add some form of save state, which shouldn't be that hard because the classic systems have had save states and they can just freeze the game. It would not be the end of the world. I think they could do away with the password system and we could just have a save state. This game would be awesome. It's very fun to explore. The map isn't too overwhelming. Even if you're not going to beat the game without a guide, you can definitely sink your teeth into it and do a fair bit of exploring and definitely get a few hours of solid fun out of this before having to resort to a guide. Kind of similar to Zelda 1, where you can get, I would say, at least halfway through that game without a guide relatively easily. And I think the other reason that this game should really come is Metroid Prime 4 is on its way. People are getting hype, and I think this would be a great way to remind people of where the series started and what a Metroidvania, but I guess at the time more Metroid game is. And that's going to do it for this list, guys. Hey, let me know what you guys want down below. And if you guys want me to do, all bars loose. Like, I can do third-party games, any Tengen games. If you want me to just go nuts and do another list with all NES games, I'd be happy to do that. Or any other video suggestion, let me know. Please give us a like. Please give us a sub. Give us whatever you think we deserve. We hope to catch you guys again, and we'll see you next time.